We spoke about music, and then we entered in the media. So the last session where we're in fact talking about media. So I would like to ask if there's any question or anything that is not clear. I know we usually do this at the end, but if there's something that we would like, because before we enter to the topic we have today, I want to make sure that we are tuned and we are, following and knowing what we are talking about. So any question, any comment one would like to comment about anything that is not clear or that we would like to have a better understanding. Don't be shy.
I personally like last week how you set everything up with giving a history of how the theater came into being. And I thought that was real good and to follow. So that was one piece that really helped me.
About what? Can you repeat,
how the theaters theaters came into being, how they used theaters for their sport.
Oh, okay.
And acting and that kind of thing. And then how it later came over into the saloons of the Western period back when. And then they also had the actors that would come in as well and do their thing. And then how it further developed from there. So you show the trail of how Satan was using it. And now in our modern day, how it's being displayed. Yeah, so you can touch on that a little bit more.
Okay. We will catch a little bit, but that was about the history of how it all came to existence. Thank you very much. Any other thing that was not clear? Or that was that you want to just share as a comment? I want to make sure we are tuned. Many of us, we have not probably follow all the parts, and I want to make sure that we are tuned together. All right, if there is none, so let me just share here. Give me just a little second so that I open here the PowerPoint. Okay. All right. Sorry, just a little second. Okay. Tell me when you're seeing it. I'm gonna share the screen. Oh wait, I forgot to share the screen. Okay. Please tell me
when
you're seeing it. Very good.
See it.
So let us start. Now let me close this so that we can have less occupation. All right, friends, the message today is very serious, and the next one will be even more serious. And we are now to our point. We understood that in the context of music, and we will understand that in the context of media. If you are older than 20 years old, you know what I'm talking about. You have seen the evolution from those old bricks that we used to call cell phones to the devices we have today. And I usually play around and say, you can even make phone calls with the devices we have today because they make everything else. And phone calls became not the most important thing in a phone. So today we're going to talk about the essence of multimedia. And there was a little typo there. So I'm going back to the context. So my brother, here it is for you. We saw how we came from the amphitheater to the theater. Even the name is a reviving of that. You know, we had the old Olympic Games and the new Olympic Games. We have the old theater and we have the new theater. And if you stop to think, you see that the devil has really entertained us with a long journey where we were thinking that we were debating about the theater itself, and we saw how things evolved from the theater to the home theater to the devices we have today that are portable and wearable and all of that. But today I would like to analyze with you that it's not only the name and it's not only the history and the context, but we copied and perfection everything about the industry they had in those days. So I'm going to start by talking about the characters that will show in a theater play. And they will have the tragedies, the comedies. They would have different kind of characters. They will call them personas. And we will see the type of personas. And today we see that portrayed in what we call the psychological script. So there was a time that advertisement industries and movie industries, they were led by creative artists until people started understanding that there was a psychology behind it, and the psychologists took over. So in advertisement companies, when I worked for 16 years to a Portuguese publishing house, the Portuguese publishing house. And then I started a company, a joint venture. And my first company was an advertisement company. And I couldn't last for more than a year in the business because it was not compatible with my faith. It is a market that's totally controlled and that affects people in a negative way. But one of the things that I had clear is that I was in the transition phase. That no longer creatives were leading the industry, and the same thing happened with the movie industries. So they have what they call the psychological script. If you see a movie will start like a song and a beautiful landscape transporting you to a different place, and suddenly it's chum, 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 and you start going through new emotions, and there's a persecution, and there's a guy going after another, chasing him, and shootings and all that stuff. And so the music stopped again, and there's suspense. And you're seeing one of them is hiding and the other. So this is, and you're totally driven, you're totally taken, you're in control. The emotions, your emotions, if you look at somebody that is watching a movie, they go laughing that and so they are crying, and you see them sad and anger. They are not even aware of all the emotions because the script is plotted in such a way to lead you to emotions, and that will change your perceptions of life and what we call the paradigm shift. So there's an emotional driving of your heart and mind, if you understand what I mean. So the same movie, you see, a movie will take like 9 minutes. In 90 minutes, if you just consider the amount of emotions that you go through, it's insane. I mean, you are experiencing anger and sadness and love and care and cheerfulness and joy and laughter, all in one pack. But many of them are connected with negative things. For instance, there was a producer from Hollywood that says that whenever he wants to make people get engaged and lower their resistance to something, he will produce a comedy about it. And he says, that's why I make so many comedies about gays. He says that through that work, you can lead the person to a change. We lower our resistance. The music will also help with that. And we spoke about music. I mean, if I just play the music of a movie, you will already be noticing all the emotions changing just with the music. And this has an impact because it will lead to the production of hormones. Let me take this chair out here. So you can see that you are producing different kind of hormones: dopamine, the anticipation, oxytocin, cortisol, and adrenaline, the fear, the tension. Think about that impact in your body, your physical part, and sometimes, and many times, your car is being altered. But then with the psychological script, there comes what we call the plot and the semiotics. So we will look at how the Greeks will do it and how the Western world has perfected it in a very, very amazing way. Because we see that they developed what they had. So I'm sorry, this one, I might have some parts that are not translated yet. Tragedy, comedy, and the satire. We see this now; it's in English. The satire. That those are the things that they will use in those movies, in those theaters, and they will have the personas, and the personas will work with a science that we will talk about, which is semiotics. My friends, when I learned about this, I was really shocked and carried to a new world. Semiotics is the study of character profiles. You've probably heard about the 4 personality types or the 16 personality types. This is a similar thing. I'm using that for you to understand, but it's deeper than that. This evaluates mindsets of characters and work with them to lead your understanding and your perception and your moral values and lead to a paradigm shift. So I will explain. So in the Greek theatrical arts, they will use many times masks or makeup to make the person be either sad or angry or happy, and will work with those personas. That's where the word person comes from. Personas, characters that are the same thing as the characters we have. They will have several characters, like the protagonist. That's the hero we have today. The antagonist, that's the villain that we have today. The naive, that's the guy that is not getting what is happening or is innocent and will bring your attention. We have different ages and emphasize the youth, a young guy, a bright energy, and all those things. So they will use all these in a plot, but the studies will show how you empathize or sympathize or antagonize with some of them. And I don't know if I shared this example before or on the last session, but for instance, you will see a scene where, or you can think about, for instance, the movies that talk about slaves. The first part of the movie, they are showing all kind of unfair things and injustice being done to the slaves, and you start getting outraged with it. It's like, woo. And sometimes they focus on the guy, which is the antagonist, which is the enemy, is the villain, and he's so evil, he's so mean. You start nurturing bad feelings about it, and you start wishing for revenge. You start wishing that something bad will happen to him. And you hear sometimes people at the end of a movie, they might comment something like, yeah, I didn't like the movie that much. That bad guy, he died so suddenly, he didn't even suffer, didn't get a problem. After all he did, it's like you're trying, if you stop to think, we are bringing things to a concept that is human revenge. God says to him, the justice belongs. And many of the messages that are used for that are subliminal messages or sub-understood. I said I will not go too much into this because there's a lot that has been said through the ages about this topic. Decades we've been talking about this, and the devil is not so much concerned. There are now many laws to protect the people. The first experiences they did, they would show one frame or two in a sequence. Your eyes, it looks like a movement for them in every 24 frames, 30 frames sometimes. If you put one frame in the middle of that, your eyes will not detect it, but your mind will. So it will be stored in your subliminal memory, and you will register that and associate with whatever you are seeing. I shared that example last time when we spoke about the movie for the kids, Hercules, and how the word Jesus and the word idiot will be connected. But here, the law started being very restricted. Even recently, there's a program called The Chef or something like that, where there was a frame, and they claim it was a mistake, one or two frames that showed up with the brand of a fast food industry, and people that slowed down somehow the program, they detected that, and they sued the company and the program, and they made a lot of money out of it because it's absolutely forbidden. It is proven that it is a reality. And they did those experiments with the Coke brand. They showed one frame, and at the end of the movie, a lot of people bought that drink, and the sales went really up. So there's a lot that has been done. So companies have been working around. They use what is not called legally subliminal, but it's called sub-understood, and it's legal. But it has the same impact or the same effect. That's why you see, for instance, I'm just mentioning some examples in the movie Matrix, when he's going on the wall and he's with the phone, it's still a flipping phone, that's an old movie. And then the phone falls in slow motion and you can see clearly the brand. Or when somebody is picking up the phone, or somebody is dressing a jacket or something, and the brands pay a lot. They can almost subsidize a movie just for those 2 seconds or two, sometimes it's even more than that, frames that will show with their brand. And subliminal messages were all throughout the children movies. Walt Disney has used that all throughout the years. But because of the legal things, and they were sued several times with bad ones, I think it's Bernard and Bianca, they paid a big amount of money because there's a frame that you see a naked or this nude female. And this is a children movie. So they went shifting into subliminal, sub-understood messages. And you see many of them. For instance, you have on the screen Chronicles of Narnia. This is a movie where we see a lion, and we know that the lion represents Jesus, but the lion also represents the devil. So they played with those two roles of the lion. The lion made things like opening the sea with his roaring, and that will be what Jesus would do. But at the same time, all the plot and the characters is have witchcraft and all the kind of things. Disney was claiming to be, people were saying it was the first Christian movie from Disney, but there's no Christian about it. It's really a spiritualistic movie. So they started going into sub-understood messages. But one of the most serious, and I would really like to call your attention for this, please have your pen and pencil because you might want to talk more about this in the questions and answer part. One of the most serious things that they did with sub-understood messages was they thought about the bright idea on playing with the personas, the characters that were types in the theatrical arts and types in the movies. And I want to explain this. We spoke about Christian movies last week. The Christian movies, they go on the same structure of personas and using the same concepts of semiotics. And that's why you see that in the beginning of the movie, the guy is not converted, is being bad, and the converted people, the Christians, are suffering in his hands, and suddenly he goes for a shift and there's a conversion. But what they're doing, they are playing semiotics, and they apply that to the children movies. And I don't know if it's possible that we will have people commenting in this, because I would like, even if you have an answer or a question about this, even right now, you can interrupt and we'll talk about that. I want you to think about this. The Bible says that Jesus will only speak through parables, and without a parable, he will not speak to the multitudes. In the Bible, we have prophetic symbols that are also used in the parables. When Jesus tells us the parables, he is using those prophetic figures. Those are parabolic personas, Christian personas. They have meanings in our context. If I say, what is a woman in the Bible? Everybody will tell me it's representing a church or religious system. If it is a prostitute, is an apostatized religious system. If it's dressed in white, is a pure religious system. So we see that all throughout the Bible. For instance, we see that the parables of Jesus, they can be taken as a symbolism. You see, when we see the king, we know it's representing God. When we see he's sending his son or his servants, he's representing the prophets and then Jesus. When we see the man that goes to the banquet without the clothing, we know it's talking about his righteousness. So all those symbols, they have connections in our brain, and they teach us the gospel. The story of the woman that received 10 coins. Many times we talk about the lost coin in the context of the lost sheep and the lost and the prodigal son. But if you stop to think, a woman is a church. 10 is the number of commandments that God has bestowed upon the church. One coin that disappeared is representing the Sabbath that was lost throughout the time. And the light is representing the Bible, a light upon our path. And the sweeping is representing the purification that happened after the great disappointment. And then she finds the coin and go tell her girlfriends, the other churches. This is the mission of our church. So you see, the symbols there are very clear if you apply those symbols. I would like you to do this with me. We're going to look at some of the classic movies from Disney, and you're going to see how serious it is. For instance, let's say Cinderella. She's a woman, so she's a church. She has no way to go to the banquet, which is the great feast of the prince. By the way, who is the prince? Christ is the prince. And she has no dress. She has no righteousness. It's a church without righteousness. Then some good witches, which is Satan trying to tell our kids that witchcraft, there are bad witchcraft, but this is good witchcraft. There's no such a thing as good witches, as there's no such a thing as a good thief. So a good witch is coming. Satan likes to show up as good as he grants us what we want, even if we are not ready for that. And she grants her the dress, righteousness. So she is able to come to the party and see the prince. And at midnight, you see this expression midnight is used in the Bible to refer to the time that Jesus is coming. At midnight, the time that the church with the righteousness dress should meet the prince, she runs away and loses everything. I don't know if you're getting this clear message, but this is a reverse parable. It's using the same biblical types and figures, applying it to a story and reversing all the meanings. I want to show you another one. You see Snow White. She's a girl and she's dressed in white. She's Snow White. So she's pure. Well, she shows up dressed in other parts, but her name is Snow White. So it's a pure church, which is the right church. Well, when Christ established the church, how many periods of the church we have? 7. oh, interesting. How many dwarfs are following this pure woman? 7. Hey, but wait, what is a dwarf? A dwarf is someone that didn't grow to the stature, complete stature. The 7 periods of the church are for us to grow at the complete stature of Christ. So those men didn't make it. These periods were not accomplished. For the Snow White, well, she's first with the apple. I'm not going to even there because the church was the one that really, tried the fruit. And Eve is representing the church. With pain, you will bear your children. That's representing the new births, conversions happening in the church. But look at the detail. The last church, Laodicea, it's a sleeping church. The last dwarf is also a sleeping dwarf. So if you think those things were plotted by hazard and by mistake, think again, because there's no coincidence. They are using the same biblical types and reversing them and applying them. And you wonder why our children, when they grow up, then they leave the church, because the power of watching all those movies has nothing compared to the power of 2 hours in Sabbath school and divine service, listening to this, but in a different way, sometimes boring for them. So this is killing their spirituality. And I could go on and on and on. You see, the three represents the Trinity. And the Trinity, if you want to curse them, the best animal to represent them will be 3 pigs. So, and who is the wolf that is coming to the flock? Is Satan. You see, Satan is trying to destroy the work of Jesus, the one of the 3, the work of the Holy Spirit, and is just not only able to destroy the work of the Father. I see a hand there. Someone wants to probably make a comment or ask a question.
Yeah, Pastor Daniel, it's me.
Yes.
So can you elaborate again back on the one with Cinderella and at midnight when when she met the prince and she ran away? Can you elaborate on that, on the spiritual sense, for the church?
Yes. This is engraving the image. The church is supposed to get the dress of righteousness, the pure dress of white, and it's supposed to meet the prince for the banquet. And Jesus will be coming at midnight. We are supposed to give the midnight cry that the bride is coming, the bridegroom is coming. So in this case, what we have is exactly the opposite. This woman, church, doesn't have a dress of righteousness and is not being able to achieve. She's a poor church. And she then receives the help of Satan to have a fake righteousness that will help her go to the banquet and meet the prince. But at midnight, when she should meet the prince, at midnight, when the church should meet Christ, she has to run away because she doesn't really have righteousness. So what is engraving in the minds of the kids is the unnecessary preparation or the unnecessary ability to meet Christ in that. So we see all these being played around with the symbols. And so you can analyze all the stories. If you apply the semiotics and you apply the parabolic symbols, you will see clearly that this has been a very carefully made work to destroy the gospel in the minds of the kids. And I could go on and on. For instance, another example, just as a curiosity, Aladdin. Aladdin is a kind of a wizard that is able to grant wishes to the people. This is what Satan does. He grants fortune to the stars of the movies and the song industry, the music industry. So, and then Aladdin asked him, so I can ask whatever I want and he will do it to me. And he says, not whatever you want. I have some limitations. I cannot kill people. I cannot bring people to life, and I cannot make people fall in love with each other. Those are the 3 limitations of Satan. He cannot kill people. We see that in Job, that he could not kill Job unless God allows him. He doesn't have power to bring life, and he doesn't have power upon our thoughts because he doesn't have access to them. And so he cannot make us and work with our feelings directly in our thoughts. Is there a new hand there, or is the same hand there?
No, I put it up again.
Okay.
I know you said to interrupt if we have like a question or something. So that's what I'm doing. But what I find very interesting is all these little mystical little cartoon movies seem to always have the main focus is on a woman. You notice, right? The main focus is always on a woman, like she plays the role, and then it always have somebody that she will worship or something like that. And that is I find that's very interesting, as you said, a woman represents.
You're very, very good. They do two things. They focus on a woman, and they focus always on magic and wizards and call them good. And they focus on disrupted families or love that is based on feelings and emotions. So all these things together have destroyed society. In fact, the genie in Aladdin is purple because that's the gay color. It's the mix between pink for girls and blue for boys. And all those things are put together with a purpose. And I could go on, but it's not the goal of our session today. I want to explain to you what is the effect and impact that this will have upon us. And I'll use this concept of figures and similitude. And I'm going to talk about something that happened in Italy. The scientists were doing a research with monkeys to see how their brain will react. So they had the monkeys connected to an electroencephalograph, and they will put peanuts, and the monkey will get the peanuts, and they will see which part of his brain will react. And then something very interesting happened when they finished the experience for the day, and the electrodes were still connected. And the one of the caretakers came to get the peanuts. And when he grabbed the peanuts, the same part that will flash in the computer when the monkey will feel the joy of getting the peanuts, the same part flashed up. And they found it weird. They tried again and it was flashing up again. And they started realizing something in the brain of the monkey. Seeing somebody having joy for getting the peanuts, in his mind he thinks he's getting joy, was feeling and identified for him as if he was getting it. And they noticed that this will also apply to humans. That's why we have the ability, if I make a face and I ask you to do the same face, you are able, if I say, do like this or do like that, you imitate me because your brain will notice that eye over there is like what I have here. That eyebrow there is what I have here. The mouth is what I have here. So he's doing up. So if I flex these muscles, he will go up. And the nose, if I do like this, that's what he's doing. He can create this similitude and identify and bring it home. The problem with this is that this is exactly what the Lord uses for the parables. And this is exactly what is happening when we watch movies and other activities. And this is why even Christian movies might bring challenges because of similitude. Look, in Numbers chapter 12, verses 6-8, the Lord tells us that if there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and I will speak unto him. But it's not so with my servant Moses. With him I will speak even apparently. And I'm sorry, I should have some 3 dots in there. The end of the text uses the expression, the similitude. So God uses parabolic symbols and the similitude, and our brain will make the connection. When this is used in reverse, our brain will make the reverse connection and register that. And in many times, you will see soon furthermore, it will internalize it as being himself. Let's see how statistics have shown this happening in the real world. Because sometimes you say, yeah, well, what's the problem? I know that stealing is not good. And I know that lying or cheating is not good. So I'm just nice. It's a nice story with a nice moral lesson. And I'm ignoring, I discard those parts. The problem is that you think you discard those parts, but your brain is capturing them in similitude. For instance, When the movie The Fast and the Furious was released, they did some statistics and show that 70% of the people that came out of the movie theater came spinning their wheels and doing the same things that they saw in the movie. And right away in society, as they will issue a new movie, you will see the people adopting the nitro gas, the low wheels, all the kind of things they will see in the movies. They were not going to the naive things of a kid that jumps from the window because it's Superman, but they were bringing to their lives the things that they saw. And if you notice, after watching a comedy, you feel so much in the good mood. After watching a romantic movie, we are able to tell nice things to the spouse. After watching a karate movie, you come out of the movie feeling like, woo, don't mess with me. You feel like, man, I can do anything. This has an impact with us. And I'm going to show you a little thing. Let's say I will put a dryer or something in your hand, and I'll say, just pretend this is a gun. I can bet, if needed, that anybody, even children with a certain age, will be able to know how to hold that, how to enter through a door, how to point it, how to replace the charge, how to shoot. Where did they learn this? Did you go to any shooting training? No. Your brain was capturing lessons and lessons, teaching you how to use a gun, although you never went to any training. Sometimes people have reactions when they are fighting among the couple, and they might surprise themselves, but those patterns were taught to them by similitude when seeing other couples in the drama, in a romantic movie, and things like that. We start adopting those things to our lives. I share with you the story. I'm not sure if I shared the story about Robert De Niro. I believe I shared that. And you can see that in the movies like Arnold Schwarzenegger used to have, or Rambo, the old movies. But even today, we bring those things into our lives. When I came to the US, I was shocked because I used to see some things in the movies, and I thought those were the movies, like the way the police would move and act and come to the houses. And then suddenly I'm in the US and I'm seeing exactly the same thing. And I'm like, wow, this is not in the movies. We came to the point that we don't know who is really influencing who. Is it that the movies are portraying the reality, or the reality is copying the movies? And in fact, it's both. So they always come with this idea that is based in true stories, but the true part of the story is very little, and most of it is really what is influencing us. You see, the Bible tells us in 2 Corinthians 3:18 that by beholding, we are changed into the same image. So either you believe this or you don't. A person that claims to be a Christian and he's saying, well, I know this is not good, but I will filter it. It's not affecting me because I know it's not good. It's not believing in what it's saying here. By beholding, that's why I said you can watch a Christian movie with 60 minutes of evil being shown there, and then 10 to 15 minutes of conversion, or 20 minutes. But what your brain will really register is what you consumed and behold the most. That is what will have the powerful influence in you. What kind of effects? I want you to see with me some of the multimedia effects and how this has been proven in experiments that are not really only opinions of people, but that show what happens, okay? So some people think, oh yeah, the problem is the content. Others don't even think it's the content. They say, well, I can filter the content. If I filter the content, that's no problem. I get the moral lesson. And let me tell you this, all movies have a good moral lesson, something good to show you. As I said in the last session, is like people that tell me the good benefits of wine or coffee. Yeah, they have benefits. Coffee and wine, they surely have benefits. But the malefice of those things comparing to the benefits is nothing. The first special effects movie that we saw, or that was brought to the public, was The Arrival of the Train. It was a movie produced by the Lumiere brothers. And the people that were sitting in the movie theater, they ran away because they felt like the train was coming upon them. They had never seen such a thing, a train right in front of you. And they ran out of the movie theater because it was a shocking thing. And if you go back on time, you will see how much we have evolved. Because in the beginning, you will see those Western movies, hey, you and this, and oh, and the guy will die. And while he's dying, he's saying this entire recital. Oh, tell my wife I love her, and tell my kids I'll never forget them, and tell this and that. And it says an entire recital, and then he dies. It's all this drama with the ketchup and stuff. That was very basic and very shocking to the people. If you take one of the most violent movies of those days and put it with a light movie of today, the light movie of today is much more violent than the violent movie of those days. But the people in those days were much more impressed than we are today. People can see this, all these explosions and blood and people dying, and we are just sitting there like nothing happens. When in those days, just a guy would catch up and die, we will be like shocked because we have been desensitized. It takes more than the train coming towards you for you really to be scared in the movie. It's been generations and generations, and this content is having an impact upon us. What we see, statistics are showing us, the more we watch television or watch those things, the less we have interest for reading, interest for real friendships. Social media is destroying real friendships, interest for spiritual things, because this is acting in such a way that we lose interest. I usually say that you can fight there to see the end of a movie, even if it's 2 or 3 a.m. But if you're reading your Bible, you'll be agreeing with all that is there. You'll be sleeping soon. We lost interest in rational things, proactive things, and kids in school, the more they are exposed to those things, the less they have school interest and good grades. And even if kids are exposed to a screen before the age of 3, they will be delayed in their process of learning speech and all those things. In fact, I learned this with Madonna. And you might wonder, Madonna? Yes, Madonna went to Larry King in an interview, and Larry was saying, well, people say that you don't let your kids watch TV. Is this true? And she says, well, in fact, it's more than that. They will not even watch my interview. And she said, and she gave some links for people to see the effects of TV. So those guys are producing things for you. Like they say, Steve Jobs will not let their kids have the electronics like we use. It was very controlled. So we are seeing that those things, they have an impact without the content. They had a program that was showing here how you can produce a paradigm shift even in one episode. You can change the mind of a person in one episode, and you will see soon why. This is a program called Mind Control, where they call some advertisers and they say, here's what we have for you. We have a challenge. We want you to produce a advertisement campaign to this brand. And they went and picked them up in the advertisement company and brought them to the TV studio, gave them the assignment. They were there. They had like 30 minutes to come out with a campaign, and they were there. And the guy, before leaving, left an envelope. It says, I'm going to leave this envelope here. You can only open it when I come back. And we see the cameras there and those guys brainstorming and having the ideas. And suddenly the man comes back and said, you came up with a campaign? And they say, yes. And they show him the campaign and says, very good. Now open the envelope. When they open the envelope, basically inside the envelope, there's the same campaign they just produced. And it said, how did we know that you're going to produce this campaign? And they were shocked. They were like, yeah, this is very similar. I don't know why. So they took them to watch a movie about the time they transport them from the advertisement company to the studio. They brought them purposely through a path and a road that everything among the people was in fact staged and prepared for them to see. And they gave them influence to their minds about what they were going to see. And they show them everything that they showed them through the path and why they came to that campaign. This is advertisement people that are used to play with the minds of people, okay? So we saw how a paradigm shift happened with a rainbow. I mean, can you use a rainbow and say, hey, the Lord promised it's not gonna rain again? Of course not, because now the mind of the people, you see, if in the 50s, I had some series in the 50s that from the 50s that my kids used to watch. It's called the Coronet movies. It will teach kids how you should comb yourself and be groomed when you go to school. You should not have your shirt out and all these things. And in one of the episodes, he was saying that, oh, John is playing with this man, but John doesn't know that this man has a big disease. He is an homosexual. And you wonder if you will play that movie today, what will happen? And you know, because if 30 years ago, I will come to my office and I will say, hey, I have an announcement to make. Everybody will look at me and I'll say, I'm gay. The boss will say, could you come to my office? And I will be fired. But if today I enter my office and they say, I have an announcement to make, I'm gay, everybody will be clapping and cheering up with me and say, yeah, go for it. Do what is the best for you. And if the boss will dare call me to his office, the boss will be fired. What changed? Decades of paradigm shift through movies and association with humor, with reverse parables, with creating characters and personas and semiotics in our minds. This has changed society. And some people might say, well, yeah, that's the content. That's why I'm very careful with what I watch. Though, well, I have bad news for you. And even being careful with what we watch, if we watch plots that have the same structure, we might not even be detecting what we are watching. So I want to bring you to some aspects. The first one is retinal persistence, which was what I was talking about. Your eyes are only able to capture until a certain stage. A movie or the sequence, it goes like 24 to 30 frames per second, and your eyes is really connecting. The arm is in this position in one frame, then in this position in another frame, then in this position in another frame, and this is just a bunch of pictures. But as he passes fast to your eyes, it looks like the guy is moving. That's an illusion. The guy is not really moving. So what else is coming to your eyes? If we analyze the system of how we capture, and that's why we saw in the last session that the eyes are the light of the body, how we capture information, how it's registered in our brain, and how it's part of our mind. I want to tell you that nothing is erased in our mind. And this will take us to some experiences that were made in the 70s. That's how old it was, and things have progressed very much. I want you to understand, if you look at the opening of the news in the 60s, it will be chan 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 chan. Welcome to the news. We are going to talk today about it. Today it's like a lot of images. Your brain is not really detecting all of them. You are not, but your brain is. You're not detecting. You see a lot of flickering images and sounds, very aggressive. What would be considered hard rock in the past is what people use to common news, to common programs, simple things, even for kids. And you are not even aware of all you're capturing there. And this is what I want to talk to you about. The experience of Mulholland. In the 70s, his doctor connected 10 children to the electroencephalogram while they were watching their favorite program. And he noticed something very interesting. They were connected, but instead of the graphics showing beta waves, which are the waves we produce in our brain when we are reading or doing something proactive, he noticed that they were registering alpha waves, which are slow waves similar to what we experience when we are in trance. That is very interesting, and I would like us to understand this, and we will go to that soon, because we'll have to understand the effect that is having in our brain. Now, another professor from Harvard did also an experience in Boston, the Boston hospital, with newborns. But in this case, he did something even deeper. Instead of having an images on the screen, he connected them to the electroencephalograph, but he was having no images, just flickering lights. And you know what happened? After 15 minutes, the babies stopped crying and were producing in the graphics patterns like they were sleeping, like alpha patterns, although their eyes were open. Have you noticed how kids can stay before a screen and they stop everything? They are like hypnotized. Well, kids and adults, I say that's the best moment to ask your husband the credit card, because he will do whatever you want. He will give you whatever. Sometimes he will answer things that later on say, you didn't tell me that, because we are out of this world. Alpha waves are like what happens when you are sleeping or hypnotized. And I want you to notice this. Some people that go to school or college, they want to memorize the studies, what they do while they are falling asleep. They play the sounds of the classes, and that is engraved in their brains. They memorize it. And a professor that we all know is a neuroscientist, Neil Nedley, is an Adventist. He explains that the hypnotic is a brain neurologist. He explains that the brain goes into a kind of a trance, a hypnotic trance, when you have one source of light and all is dark around. And I don't know if you noticed, but that's exactly the concept of movies or TV at home. People sometimes turn all the lights off and they are only seeing that flickering light. The flickering effect is so fast and so repetitive that your brain will go into a trance or alpha mode. You're still, alert apparently, but your brain is in fact blocked. It's not proactive but reactive. And I want you to understand why we have in advertisement what we call below the line and above the line, and it has to do with the prices. If you put advertisement in a magazine or in the radio, it's not as expensive as if you put advertisement on TV. See, for instance, the prices for the Super Bowl advertisement, the price of 1 second there. Why? Because all those agencies, they know that your brain will be in alpha mode. Is like if you were hypnotized. And I don't know if you have seen somebody hypnotized, they will do whatever you tell them to do. And that's why in those kinds of advertisement, they always say, drink this, call now, buy that. You see, they are giving you commands because they know you are going to do whatever they tell you. It's going to be engraved there and you're not going to control. Another scientist that did researches on this was in fact a Portuguese scientist. She says that it's through the eyes that we receive all this information, but it's also connected to our imagination and we cannot separate the two. Our brain is in fact not filtering that and is registering the things. And all the concepts you are seeing are being deeply registered with no control. And in a moment that we are memorizing even more. So when you go to church, you're not hypnotized, I hope. And you're there listening, you will grasp, a lot of what is being said and memorized and internalized. But when you are using vision and hearing at the same time, like in a movie, your ability to memorize, your ability to internalize and capture the information goes up 70%. And when you're doing that in a hypnotic mode, it goes, who knows? So this is really the effect. And I want to share with you an experience. I don't know if I have a slide about that. That is very important. But before, I want you to understand that this is affecting our frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is one of the most important parts of your brain. In fact, is the seat of judgment, reasoning, intellect, spirituality, conscience, self-awareness, power of will, and power of choice. It is like the headquarters, the control center of your entire being. If you think about Goliath, he was all protected, and just by unprotecting his frontal lobe, he was shut down. And this is happening to many Christians. You think you're putting the full armor. That's why the Lord says the full armor, your helmet has to be there. If you take your helmet, if you unprotect your frontal lobe, you will be brought down. And what happens is that the frontal lobe is the part that is brought to this alpha mode. And if you do this activity constantly, not only will create an addiction because you're producing hormones with the thalamus and hypothalamus. You see here in the right part of the screen, you see those little elements there. They are responsible for the hormones. So all the things that you are seeing, they call action, the violence, the romance, all these emotions and the psychological trip that you're going for, the emotional script that is there, the psychological script, is interacting with this thalamus and hypothalamus and producing all kinds of hormones, sexual hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, you name it, dopamine. And this is creating chemical addictions. Kids are addicted to the cell phones because their brain is addicted to have those amounts. And more it's needed, like in any addiction. And they need to get more and more immersed. That's why cell phones nowadays are taking over our society. I want you to understand that this is very simple. So the part that is controlling the spirituality, the power of will, the discernment, and the intellect, the evaluation of right and wrong is being shut down and atrophied, while the part that is controlling the carnal part is being fed and stimulated. There's no possible victory. You might even hear at church the good things and try to practice them, but first your discernment is being disrupted. You cannot tell right and wrong. And with years, you see that people now, they are defending abortion. You see, yes, it's my body. What about the body that is inside it? It's his body. He has no choice. You see, it's your body, your choice. So people are, their values are shifted. The same things that in the past they will despise and say that were bad and evil, those are the things they uplift and defend. And then we see that they don't have any power of discernment and no power of will. They try, many Christians, they try to overcome, but they are not able to do. And the bad thing is that if you see the mark of the beast and the seal of God, they'll go in the frontal lobe. God says in Deuteronomy 6:6-8, these words, says, thou shalt bind them, and we just read that text as our memory text, not memory, our scripture text, and it says, they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes. The Lord wants to engrave his law in our frontal lobe, and Satan wants to put his mark, which is the counterfeit of God's law and God's character, in our frontal lobe. This is exactly what he's working with. When we behold violence, we are engraving in our minds the opposite of thou shalt not kill. When we behold adultery, we are engraving the opposite, thou shalt not commit adultery. When we behold plots that are all fantasy and fake things, we are engraving the opposite of thou shalt not lie. So I want us to understand, and I want to take you, not all these slides are translated, but I want to take you to the journey again and see how Satan is now passing from, you don't need to go to the theater, you don't need to bring the theater home, you don't need to carry the theater with you. You are with the theater all the time, all the movies, all this influence in your device. And it's not only a wearable, but now we are talking about AY. We want to put it inside your brain. So we want to take over all that you have. And if you look at video games, I would like to mention a little bit about video games. You see, in the case of video games, the industry has developed a lot because video games take this even to the next level. The amount of images, flickering images, and the hypnotic effect, it's much bigger, and the perception and the effect upon the retinal persistence is much bigger. The impact on the frontal lobe People that play video games, statistics has been showing that the similitude, they are rewarded. So you see, you are in prison. The game is you have to come out of prison. You rob the gun from the officer, you gain 10 points. You kill the officer, you gain 100 points. You steal a car, you rob a car because you need to run away, you gain 200 points. Then you kill a lot of people on the way, you're being rewarded. People that play video games, they lose sense of reality. They start mixing reality with fantasy. They lose sense of consequence, because in the movie, if something happens, you die, and game over, and you restart. And this is all happening while their brains are processing that. And Dr. Sanjay Gupta from CNN, he showed how we have a part of our brain that controls reality and a part of our brain that gives us perception of fantasy. When you are immersed in fantasy, either in movies, but even more in video games, the part that controls fantasy starts developing, and the part that controls reality starts mingling, and you come to the point that you cannot tell any longer what is reality and what is fantasy. And we see this happening. It grows so much. This is why I want you to look at everybody, that when they say there's a mass shooting, pay attention to the news before and after and see what people are saying. Oh, he was such a nice guy. I don't know. I'm shocked. He was just at home, very peacefully, not even talking to anybody, just playing his video games. You may notice that most of them, if not all of them, they were addicted to video games or some kind of influence that sometimes the moment pops and the brain then flips and it comes, and reality is, and some of them after, if they didn't kill themselves, because in the movies, in the movies and in the, not in video games, many times you have that effect. But many times you see them say, I don't know what happened. Like the guy that killed his entire family, and then he's coming to reality. Or some of them are not even coming to reality. They have come to a big problem with the similitude. We understood that. Their brain is identifying, by beholding they are being changed, their brain is capturing the parallels. But the worst thing, my friends, you see, the Bible says that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her has committed adultery. The Bible is telling us when sin is committed in our mind, sin is committed. What they are not realizing is that for their brain, like with the monkeys, with similitude, it's not the guy on the video game that is killing. For their brain, they are killing. And some of the video games, you don't even see the protagonist. You just see the hands is like it's you. So your brain is processing, and you will never ask forgiveness for those sins. The sin is happening in your mind, and you're feeling, well, this is not reality. I'm not killing anybody, but your brain is killing, and you are sinning, and you are immersed in that, and your brain is taking that as if it was you. And it comes to a moment that it will flip, and reality will be. It's not by mistake that people use simulators. You see, pilots are trained with simulators. How come? It's because it is so real that you really learn to pilot. You see, the army would train with simulators. You saw that guy, Anders Breivik, in Norway. He killed 70 people, and when they interviewed him, he said, I have never held a gun. I never held a gun. He practiced with simulators and video games. That's all he did. And he was ready to go and kill all these people. You know, the army, the American army, they train with simulators. That's how real it is. So I want us to understand that our brain is really coming to a point that is not making a distinction. And we are now going into virtual reality. So video games are left in the dust. I mean, we are now immersed in the metaverse. There's no game, okay? Notice that the devices are less and less framing. Why? They realized that the framing was the only thing blocking or giving you reality. You remember the hypnotic effect? When you have all dark, around and you're just focusing on the flickering thing. Now, that was happening when we have big screens on the movies, and then when we have this kind of relatively big screens on the TV, but now your focus is just on a narrow device or little device. So the hypnotic effect is much bigger. And they understood that if you reduce the frame, people will really, really immerse on the device and just be absent and absorbing from reality. So I want us to understand that statistics have shown, studies have shown that the relationship that people have with their devices is like a loved one. If something happened to your phone, especially the youth, but many, it's like you lost your loved one. And we have a lot of people recommending specialists. Jaron Lanier, he was one of the engineers for Google. And he says, hey, we are playing with sin that we don't know what it is. And you should not, it says you should get rid of social media. You should get rid of those things. This is really controlling us. And people don't know, and even them playing with those things, they don't know. Simon Sinek also talks about how this is affecting the millennials, friends. And this is what we will be talking in our next session. We will see how, but I think at this point, with all that I said, it is very clear how Satan is preparing this world for the final clash. I mean, we have a bunch of automats, a bunch of robots, a bunch of people that they are really just reacting. See the reaction of our youth, see the way they go. It's like they are totally hypnotized, they're totally taken, alienated. You see? Alienated. I mean, we are seeing we have come to a point that I would say that everybody in our society is ready for whatever Satan tells them to do, because they are ready with all those exposition. Of course, they don't think it's Satan, but we saw that when we had the problems in the Capitol, all the things that were happening, they saw how social media is polarizing, in fact, Democrats and Republicans, and instigating people to do all those things. And society has changed, and we are not in control of this. So all of this is because of the way those media interact with us and affect our brain. So the Bible tells us, I'm sorry, I didn't translate this text, in Matthew 5:29, if your eye will make you sin, that you should turn it off. So I want us, friends, to be really understanding that we are involved in a war of the senses. In this warfare is leading us to the final clash, which is Armageddon. And Armageddon is not a physical battle only, it is a mental battle. Your mind is the battlefield, and what warriors do before they strike, when they are camping before each other, they try to intimidate and reduce the power in the other army. And this is exactly what Satan is doing now to Christians, having them, and to society in general, but I'm focusing on Christians, having them exposed, desensitized, reducing their power of will, their discernment, their ability to overcome and connect spiritually, reducing all, making them being automated on the way that they move and the things that they do. What are you going to do? You know, information won't save anybody, otherwise Satan will be in heaven. He knows much more than you do. Decision, actions, and you have to ask God to help you, because at this point, in the generations we were born and the way we are, we lost a lot of abilities. We are talking about Sunday law in the future, but we barely can keep a Sabbath today, and there's no death penalty. We talk about several things about faithfulness in a time of trouble like never before, but we barely can take our curses for today, our challenges for today. We are complaining, we are whining, we are spoiled, we are accommodated, and we live in an illusion that we will be able to think that all the things we have today, for almost 6,000 years, no generation had it. sometimes people say, hey, Pastor, what am I going to do? If I cannot do this, I cannot do that. I say, yeah, for 6,000 years, men were just sitting there waiting until they would invent TV because they had nothing to do. I mean, I found out that I had a lot of time to do a lot of things when I took TVs out of my life. So the Lord is not telling you to pluck your eye. He's telling you to pluck what is hurting your eye. The things that are, your eyes is killing you, then you have to take whatever is killing you through your eyes from your life. What you do, your hands, your brain, everything has to be reconsecrated to the Lord. If you want to make it to this final clash, you have to jump out of the train of perdition now. You have to take actions. And I remember that vision from Ellen White that she says she saw a train and people were laughing and having fun and enjoying the trip. And as the vision keeps going, they were not aware that the guy that was driving the train was Satan himself. This world is going in a train, my friends, and people are all going through the same direction. And if we don't learn to walk the narrow way, to go against the crowd and against the current, we will not make it. So this is my appeal for us. And that was my message shared to you today. We will open up now for questions and answers. I'm going to stop the screen sharing, and we can go to whatever is not clear or whatever you would like to comment or ask in this topic, or the previous one also. Yes, I see a hand there. Go ahead. Sister Michelle.
But I mean, this thing is so profound. This media thing, media on the brain. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Pastor. It's wearing on us. I mean, I know it's sometimes I just feel like just taking my phone and flying it somewhere in the air, in a lake or something. I do get tired of these devices. I feel strapped sometimes. I feel like drained. I know what you're saying. It had times I remember literally, and this was a while, not recently, but you know, it happened to me over and over. Literally going to church, running late, forgot my phone, driving and looking everywhere with my head down and turned back, going from I'm like, what is this? This is too much. And it's almost like you can't get out of it. And then because it's all tied up in the system today, it's kind of like just have you under this shackle and shacklement, and you feel it. You just feel the tiredness of all these devices, the TV, the screens.
Absolutely.
And I would be like, Lord, show us how to get out of this. I mean, do something. I mean, because we so much depend on the system, have it so set up where, it's like it's almost like a necessity right now. So I wish we can be hooked like that on the Bible. And that's the whole point.
Like any addiction, the worst one is the one that you don't acknowledge as an addiction. And a lot of people, they keep saying they are not addicted, or they don't even realize they are. Anybody that smokes, or many people, they say, "Oh, I can stop whenever I want." When I used to drink Coke, I would not think I was addicted. I thought I just like it, but it's not like an addiction, because you imagine an addiction is a person that is. But many of us, we will not be able to spend a 40-day fasting from our media. We will not be able to spend sometimes even a week. I would risk to say that some of us will not even be able to spend one day without media. And I want us to understand, like any addiction, it takes a little bit more than just a wish and a desire to get rid of it. It will take an effort. We will go through a syndrome of abstinence. We will suffer. I had a friend that he decided to, he was an Adventist guy, but when he heard the health message, he decided to stop drinking Coca-Cola. And he went for 15 days of, you wouldn't say, full of despair and pain. He could not even hear a sound and everything. The devil will bring several temptations. He would sweat and wake up in the middle of the night, dreaming with that. And he was hard. You know, people that have a hard time to get rid of coffee. We just think that those are addictions. And yeah, that's why it's hard for them. And we don't see ourselves in that position. But we have a chemical addiction in our brain because our brain is addicted to producing those hormones and the feeling that it produces. And we need more and more. I believe deep in my heart, and against myself, I talk because I deal a lot with media, and I was always interested in media. I used to be addicted to movies. Praise God, I was set free. But I strongly believe that all this society that we have now, the movies, the music, the food system, they are all conducive to formatting the brain of the people and preparing them to have no reaction and to lose the final battle. And I strongly believe that if as Adventists, we're going to go through a serious commitment with the Lord, and serious submission and going and in this commitment to let those things go with the Lord, because we don't have that power, we will be lost. We'll be doomed.
Amen.
It's as serious as it is.
And I can see how Jesus, when he, at times he used to just come aside and just go up on the mountains and just stay there in that quiet solitude. And like sometimes you like want to do that. No wonder he wants us more in the countrysides, because in the days we're living in, because it's so much distraction, the media, the violence, everything is like, let me go somewhere where a brook is and just sit on a rock and just like hear the water and just kind of like talk everything from your mind. And just because it's bad out there with all of this, it's really taking a toll on the human mind. No wonder the crimes are increasing. People are confused. They're all knotted up and all of this. And no wonder Jesus is calling us back. He's calling us back to that solitude. Come away from all of that, where you guys know where you can hear the Holy Spirit talking with you in rustling and bustling and media and phones and sirens. You got to stop and say, you know what? I need to find a place where I can commune with the higher power. And like you said, the media is one of the main distractions. It's horrible. We this is a bad time we're living. But I just want to,
absolutely.
If anyone else have any comment or question.
Yes, I know it was a lot of information, so I think you might have things that you would like to clarify or ask or comment. So Bill, please feel free. I see Arlene's hand there, so go ahead.
My question is,
Yes.
I was thinking one day about, I was chatting with my grandsons, and where we learned stuff back in school, they've changed the system over and over and over, so that you can't help your grandchildren, you can't teach them anything. What is that about? If you could, I don't know if it makes sense what I'm trying to say.
It is. Well, Satan realized early in time that if you want to really control society, you have to start when they are just open brains or virgin records, that they record everything you tell them. I remember that right after the earthquake in Lisbon, we learned that in history. Of course, I was not alive in 1755. But right after the earthquake, the prime minister that took over, the first thing he did was to take out all the Jews from Portugal. The peninsula has a lot of Sephardim, the original Jews. And he took them all out, killed them, many of them, and took the educational system from their hands and put it in the hands of the Jesuits. We know from the Bible and Spirit prophecy helps us understanding that Jesus didn't go to the schools. John the Baptist didn't go to the schools. And we know that the school system is now more and more preparing to format the minds of the people. First, everything gets shifted. I mean, one of the most horrible professions today is being a teacher, because you have no rights and children can do whatever. But the system is now prepared first not to make accountability. In some systems, people can pass to the next level, even if they are not ready, but also to format the minds. So they learn. We have a friend, this is a sad story, that ended up by the Lord's grace. Well, we have a friend that he studied at the same time that I was studying theology. He's a pastor in England. And they had this daughter for years. She was homeschooling. And suddenly they say, well, we want to move to, look at how the devil works. We want to move to the countryside to speed up the process. I would suggest that both of us will work. It's just 1 year. We'll put our daughter in the school system and then we are out of here. Well, there was a bad year for them because one day when they came to pick her up, the police was there. They arrested the mom and then went home and arrested the daddy, because with all the things that were happening in school, the girl started feeling so bad that what all the kids were doing and had and she didn't have, she started developing with all the things that they were teaching her. She was not ready for that. She started developing the idea that she was being abused, and she started coming up with things, and the parents were arrested, and they had a long time. They were more than 1 month. She was about to go to a foster home. It was a big trouble. They are still trying to solve the problem there. And all of this was because of the mindset. So I have no doubt, unfortunately, about the effects that school are having, and the school system is preparing to more and more break connection between parents and kids, considering the kids as part of the government, or it's not in our hands. And of course, the minds of the people will be formatted according to what they have as a reference. When you put your kid with a teacher, you're telling them this is an authority, and what this authority is teaching you then is automatically solid. And then we'll start a conflict between what they learn with you as parents as authority and what they learn with the other authorities that are recognized in the society. And usually you lose. So they start questioning the values and adopting the society and their values. So it's sad. I would strongly encourage homeschooling. And I know sometimes it's not easy. It depends on the situation. I'm just saying what will be the best for our kids.
I asked because they were dealing with the mind, and I was thinking, hello? Oh, yeah.
Say it again, please.
I asked because I know you're talking about the mind and how it works and all of that. So I was wondering how that came in, because I think it's really crazy that, they keep changing stuff and changing and changing. I saw it in the movies, it changed and it changed and changed. So that's why I was wondering how the school system worked together with that. I see.
Yes, and it is. It's the easiest way to get to the youth. And it's not new. In the times of Jesus, it was also like that. Spirit prophecy clearly says that Jesus didn't go because he will be then absorbing all the concepts and the wrong doctrines that the Pharisees had.
Yeah, and then it's only error. Everything is like, although they're making it look like good, is, I guess,
yes,
errors.
Yes,
right?
Yes, exactly. And at that age, kids will absorb whatever you give them.
Yeah. And then the way they tell you that no, it's not. We can't do it that way. Yeah, you're getting the same answer, but we cannot do it that way.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yes, I know. We have to take action and pray. It's crazy, and it will be more and more. There's no way out except with God. That's why Michael will have to stand up sometime. Yes.
Yeah.
Because the world has been going wild. If you hear For instance, in Brazil, my wife is from Brazil. We were missionaries in Brazil for about 5 years. And we got access to the content they are teaching the kids. Kids were talking about the primary, bring home, they have a book teaching them about sexuality, and they bring home exercises. The exercise, this is public school, okay? This is from the government. It's not like something that a weirdo is putting there. They are encouraged to go home, try your first sexual encounter today, and tomorrow to share how it was.
Really?
And the book is talking about, yeah, I mean, we saw the book with our own eyes, and we saw the videos and in the school system explaining what, teaching them how to practice this, teaching them to understand. It's not just teaching sexual education, it's teaching fornication and lust and deprivation, talking about same sex interaction, and encouraging kids at under 4, the 4th grade. So we're talking about primary kids to have their first sexual experience. This is crazy. I mean, which kind of world is this?
But why did we as individuals, I mean, I'm just as much to blame, allow it to get this far? I don't understand. I mean,
it's hard to control the system. Look at Russia. We established the government and the system, and I'm not talking here about the system of the government. We are to respect authorities. I'm just talking about the fact it happens the same thing in church in some areas. We established that, and then we cannot control it. So Putin was put there kind of by the people, at least the first ones, and now the people have no control. It's like they don't want this, but the system, it creates tensions and controls. The officers, the police, the army, they all have to obey the leader, and unless there's a plot or there's a coup, that's the way it will go. So some of them are doing what they don't agree, but that's the system they are in, and you cannot control it at higher level. Yeah. So it's just personally with God that we can control. Look at what happened in the Second World War, right? It was normal people, and their minds were steered up. Hitler, by the way, was very much aware of all the power of media, and he used it very well. And the minds of the people were steered up, and they were doing things that afterwards they were ashamed of what they did. Okay, any more questions or comments? Feel free. This is the moment. As soon we'll shut down the program.
Yes, someone asked a question in the chat if you hadn't noticed it.
Okay.
Dr. Daniel.
I didn't open the chat, sorry.
The very first one that says, have you heard that Hitler, I believe, said, if you give me your children and the music, then I'll rule them or have their minds, something like that.
Yes, Hitler said that. Greek philosophers said that. Many people, through music, you can. I think it was Plato that said, if with music you can make the society whatever you want. You can turn the society into whatever you want. And Hitler also used music and media. He was very much aware, because the one that is really aware of this is Satan. He knows the power of those things. And yes, Hitler says something like that. I've come across that. Yes. Friends, I don't know. Feel free. If you don't have questions, it's also okay. But I don't want you to leave with any doubts. I know it was a lot of information, and I think it's quite self-explanatory and clear, but still.
Tonight, it was sort of inferred in the last session when you get to what Satan is really doing in these last days,
yes.
and that is using spiritualism. Revelations 16, 13 to 14 speaks to that a little bit. And so I would appreciate if that would take place. Yeah.
You are absolutely right. We will be seeing how we are now with virtual reality, holograms in 7D. I'm not even talking about 3D. And we will understand where we are really going. And I know it's a little bit scary, But I mean, ignoring the car doesn't make that it will not run you over. In fact, knowing the car is coming will prevent you from being rolled over. So I would say that definitely the session for the next topic, it's really vital for us to understand. Okay, so maybe we could close. I don't know. But Elton, if you want to lead, feel free.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to say good night to everybody. I've been doing a little mission work, helping out a relative get back and forth to work. He's on restricted driving. I have to get up very early in the morning to get going for that. And I'm starting to work out. But since we're at the end, I stay on and do my part, Michelle. And thank you so much, Pastor Daniel, and those that have come in it tonight as well. It's just letting us know that I like how you said, you know, that the car is coming. And what God has allowed us to see is the tricks that Satan has exposed. Even though it seems sometimes unrealistic, that's just how he wants us to see it. But it is real, and we do not have to be deceived or caught off guard. All right, now I stop my little part there. So Michelle, if you will lead us a little, and then I'll do my little prayer part and close us out.
Yeah, well, I mean, since the hour is late, we're gonna just go ahead and do some prayer requests. Usually we'll ask if anyone have, well, we already did the question and answer, so we just go ahead and do, you know, prayer requests. And, you know, just remind them, everyone, that next Thursday, I believe, Pastor Daniel, next Thursday will be the final piece.
Repeat, please. I didn't understand.
Next Thursday, would next Thursday be the final piece for us on the series?
Yes, it's the final piece. Yes.
Okay. All right. So just reminding everyone that, you know, you don't want to miss out on that crowning part, to, you know, to join and invite your friends and family to come on. So with that said, Brother Elton, you can go ahead and do prayer requests.
Okay, sure. Again, thank you everyone for hanging on in. But before we close out, we want to allow you, if you have some prayer requests, orally or unspoken, that you would like to make us aware of, we would like to take note and include it in the closing prayer tonight. So the floor is open for that.
My prayer request is, please pray for me for patience and, you know, and that new heart, and the right spirit, please.
I pray for young people, you know, that they would open their eyes and see the truth about media and all the rest of stuff, and make that change.
Sister Cherry. Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Yes, Sister Cherry, I came on late. I just came from Tennessee myself, you know, yesterday, so I had to recuperate a little bit. But I just want to thank God for the opportunity to come to Tennessee, and I met Sister Michelle in person, and we had a very wonderful time at church and so forth. And I just want to give God thanks for giving me the chance to be around like minds, and that He will continue to work on me, work with me. I want to pray for my children. I have 3 girls, and in Virginia, they haven't been to church for years. Though they were baptized, they have not been in church. I just want to ask God to touch their hearts, and that they will come back and turn before time is no longer. And also, I want to pray for the people that I live with here. I'm in Florida right now, and my patients saw one today. And, you know, it was a good thing. You know, I think I was very missed. And it's a blessing to come back. It's a blessing to be there. And I just pray that God will continue to work with me and to strengthen me where I'm weak and give me the faith that I need. And that, you know, when the time comes, I'll be ready. I also want to pray for my husband. He's working on certain things, and I just want to ask God to lead him. And I just want to give God thanks for everything that He has done, for waking us up this morning that we can come on the prayer line. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right, anyone else? Okay, if not, we'll close our time out with prayer tonight. We're praying. Lord, again, we're so thankful for your undying love toward us, your children, and how through your word, through prophecy, you have exposed Satan. And the script is lining up just as you have said it and laid it out for us in your word. That's why Daniel and the book of Revelation is key, very key to us really understanding and having the confidence that before all these things that are happening now with us through the media and other entities, you have let us know it. So that's give us great confidence to serve you. So with that said, Lord, the request from our dear sister Michelle, and we all need is patience. We all need a new heart. That should be our prayer, a consecration every day to be given a new heart. And also we need to have, I like that Psalm 51, we need to have that right spirit, the renewal of the right spirit, the Holy Ghost in us. Ask for that every day. Yes, we do lift up our young people, Lord. We must not give up on them. Not only pray for them, but where permitted and where an opportunity is there, get involved in their lives some way, somehow, and encouraging them, let them know that they are loved, that there is a God, and the things that they have been exposed to, they don't have to, continue to go down that trail. But help us, Lord, to do what you have called us to do so that we can be used to help others. And then our dear sister Treya, thank you for the testimony you just shared through her. But her request is not only to remember herself and her relationship with thee, but she's concerned about her 3 girls, praying for them mightily. Also, I go ahead and mention her husband as well, the endeavors that he's in, that Christ will be the leader of his heart, and decisions being made will be in accordance with thine will. Also, the patience she has charge of. Want to remember that. And then the people that she live with amongst, back down there in Florida, I believe it is, where she works and lives. So Lord, in a very special way, we lift her up. Let her continue to be a representative for thee, as well as all of us. And that as a result of our influence, others will be drawn to thee. Let them, Lord, see something different. Yes, you tell us in your word, we are to be in the world, but not of the world. And the asking is that from you is that you protect us from the evil. So we're not going into it just to enjoy what it has to offer, but we're going in to show that there is a way out. And we're to be light to others, giving them that opportunity to make the choice that we daily make, moment by moment. Now, as we end this prayer tonight, Lord, help us to take what has been shared thus far. And I'm speaking out loud as always, my own self. First, I need to take what has been shared and truly apply it. Something was said and it reminded me tonight, God is doing all that he can do. Jesus has done, will continue to do, and prepare the way for us. But we got to do our part. If we don't put forth the effort, God can't save us. That was made clear tonight. So Lord, help me to be broken, truly broken, no matter what. And I pray that that is the prayer of us all. Lord, keep us in your loving care until we're able to meet again for our final, sadly, but yet final segment, which is going to be very key So all of those that are on, share it abroad, invite others to come on next Thursday as we wrap up our time and see more exactly what Satan is really, we know what the end game is, but the how he's getting there is what we need to know more of. So stay tuned for next Thursday, 7 o'clock. We thank you, Lord. We love you, Lord. And again, continue to use us to be witnesses for thee. In Jesus' name, we humbly ask and pray. Amen.
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 All right. Good night, saints. We love you. Be blessed.
Good night.